It's been a couple weeks since I got back from the Recycle Santa Fe Art Festival, and I thought I would give you a quick recap of the items that I sold. So if you haven't seen it, I did a full tour of my booth setup, but I divided my booth into 4 categories. I had a kind of notebook section, a Christmas section, a jewelry section, and my insect plant charm section. The first item that I had were these little bookmarks, and they're just made out of aluminum cans, as most of my projects in the booth are. And I put a water slide imprint on the silver side of the bookmark, and then I did a little bit of embossing, taped the edges, and you can see that the soda can print is on the back. And then I added a couple of little beads that are also made out of aluminum cans. And they were packaged like this, and I just kind of hung them up in my booth. And I was selling them for $4, and I sold 12 of them. So these are the only ones I have left. The next item in this section were my beaded pens. So they are special pens that you can add beads to, and these beads are again rolled out of the aluminum cans. I rolled these with the printed side out, so they have a little bit of color just from the can. I did some from Coke cans. I don't think this is a Coke can, but some of them you can kind of tell what the cans are. And then you can also roll the beads with the silver side out and use alcohol inks to color them, or just leave them silver like I did on this one. And these I sold for $8, and I sold 8 of them. And the last item in this section were these notebooks with the aluminum can covers. And on the front, I did different patterns. There was this yin and yang version. There was also a heart version and a peace sign version. And these are the only 2 I have left. And then on the back, I just did a more simple version of the cover. And again, I did sort of an insert to cover the inside cover. And this video tutorial just went up, so you should be able to find it if you're interested. And these I sold for $18, and I sold, oh, I told you the wrong number on the pens. I sold 17 pens and 8 notebooks, because I only had 10 notebooks, so these are the only 2 that I have left. So forgive me, the pens, actually I sold 17. My next department was the Christmas department, and I made several of these big word sort of shelf sitters from magazine pages, and they took up a fair amount of space, but I thought they were kind of fun, and they definitely brought people into the booth. Let me show you another one here. This one's my favorite, but I didn't sell any of these. I was trying to sell them for $10 a letter, so this one would have been $50, and it actually, I think, got the most interest. I thought maybe that the Joy would sell just because it was only $30, and then I also had one that said Noel and one that said Love. But like I said, I didn't sell any of those, but they did definitely draw people into the booth. The one thing I will say that I should have paid more attention to is whether or not the people that were drawn into the booth that looked at these bought anything else. And I don't really remember if they did, but I'm kind of leaning toward maybe not. They were interested in these, but I'm not sure they bought anything else. So that's just an observation that I made recently, and I wish I'd paid more attention, but of course I'm still learning. I'm not a seasoned seller. I've just done it a few times. So this next item is an item that I've had in my booth for all 3 years that I've been to the show now. And the first year I sold one. I don't think I sold any last year. And then this year I sold another one. So I was just selling them for $10. I kind of was trying to get rid of them because I have had them in my booth for several years. But they're just made from tin cans and some corks to separate the cans. And then they have little candy wrapper Christmas balls made out of colorful foil. This next item is a new item, and I think the tutorial just went up on it too. I think that was my last tutorial that went up. And this is my little Coca-Cola reindeer. I think he turned out pretty cute. And I only had 6 of them, and I sold 5, but I was selling them for $35. So that was a fun new item, and I think I will definitely make them again for next year. This is another older item that has sold pretty well, but I just had 2 of them left. And so again, I was selling them kind of at a discounted price. I sold them for $12. And these are just my little dragonfly Christmas tree ornaments. They're made from magazine paper and aluminum cans. And I sold 1 of them. And like I said, they're an older item, so this is the last one I have, and I probably won't make them again because I have a new version that I like better. This is another item that I was trying to just kind of get rid of, and so I sold my little snowman bobbleheads for $10. I had them at 2 of the previous shows, and they just haven't sold. I think, I think they're kind of cute, and their faces are sort of fun if you can see them, but when they're standing up, all you can kind of see is the top of their heads, and unless you get them up high enough, you can't really see their faces. But I did actually sell 3 of these this year, so again, it's not a thing I'll make again, and I did discount them to sell them, but I was happy to sell a few of them this year. I also had these. I didn't have these at my first show, but I had these at last year's show. And they're just little Christmas ball ornaments made out of the bottom portion of the aluminum cans. They're kind of 2 pieces sandwiched together, and then I just put a little pony bead on there. And I just had them in these 2 colors. And last year, I don't think they sold very well. I might have sold 1 or 2 maybe. And this year I sold 4 sets, and I think I sold about an even amount of both colors. I didn't really sort them by color, but I sold the sets of 6 for $10. And like I said, I just had these 2 colors and sold 4 sets. These are also an older item, and they're made out of tin cans instead of the aluminum cans, so more of the soup cans. You can see the ribbing in the metal here. And I had 2 different sets that I made. I had a snowman and a star, and can't remember what the third one was now, but I sold all of those last year. So I only had a couple of these left. I had 3 sets of this style left, and so I was discounting them a little bit. I sold them for $14, and I did sell 2 out of the 3 sets. And the last Christmas item are these Christmas wreaths that I made from old bed springs and the tin cans. And I have a few different styles. This is my holly and berry style, but I also have one that has bells and one that has stars. And I sold 1 of these, and I was selling them for $35. But they're kind of fun because you can do a version where you have paint, where I just painted these with some acrylic paint. And then this is exactly the same style, only I didn't paint them, and I did do a little bit of shaping on the leaves and the bow instead of just leaving them flat. And I've had these all 3 years as well. I've sold a couple, 1 or 2 every year, but they don't fly right off the shelves, and I think I've just always sold them for $35. The next section is my little beaded insect plant charms. And I kind of went all in on these this year because they did really well last year. And this is my little grasshopper. It's made out of copper wire, and the beads are made from the aluminum cans. And I didn't sell any of the grasshoppers this year, but last year I sold a couple of them, and I was selling them for $20. So at last year's show, I just had 1 size of all of my little critters, but this year I decided to make a small version of all of them, except for the grasshopper. He only comes in 1 size. But last year I sold out of my little ants, and so I made some more, and I also made him a little brother. The larger one sold for $10, and the smaller one sold for $8. And I sold 3 of the larger ones and 4 of the smaller little ant versions. So here are my 2 little bumblebees, my larger bumblebee and my small bumblebee. And I sold the larger one for 15 and the smaller one for 12. And I sold 4 of the larger bumblebees and 2 of the smaller ones. This next item I was really excited about. I changed the butterfly wings from last year's version, and I thought I'd come up with a much prettier and better version using the aluminum can for the wings and then coloring it really. I thought they were really pretty with the alcohol ink. And I made them in a bunch of different colors. So there's a large and a small version again. And I was really surprised. I sold 1 of the large butterflies for $30, I think on the very first day of the show. And then I didn't sell any more of them, and I didn't sell any of the smaller versions at all, which I was selling for $25. So I was a little surprised because I thought they were really pretty and a lot better than last year's version. And anyway, sometimes you're surprised by these things. I also made some little caterpillars with the beads. And these were kind of fun because I don't know if you can see from on the camera very well, but on these beads I tried to do kind of mixed colors. So I did a sort of a gray stripe here, and I sort of tried to mix some of the alcohol inks just to make some different variations of the colors. And I sold the large caterpillars for 20 and the smaller caterpillars for 18. And I sold 2 of the large caterpillars and just 1 of the smaller caterpillars. This is the new version of my dragonfly. So I have the larger dragonfly and the smaller version again. And here's a funny story. When I made this tutorial, a lot of you mentioned that dragonflies don't have antennae. And so I actually fixed the antenna on my dragonflies to reflect a more anatomically correct dragonfly. But when I made the smaller version, I totally spaced that out and I put the longer antenna on them again. And I didn't even realize that until a day or 2 ago. So I went all the way through the show and didn't realize that I put big long antenna on my small version of my dragonfly. Anyway, I was selling the larger dragonflies for 25 and the smaller dragonflies for 20. And the smaller dragonflies actually sold the best. I sold 4 of these and just 1 of the larger dragonflies. And the last insect creature that I made were these little ladybugs. So the larger ladybug is made with a bottle cap and an aluminum can beaded head. And the smaller version is made from just from the aluminum. And I sold the bigger ladybug for 15 and the smaller ladybug for 12. And I sold 2 of the larger ones and just 1 of the smaller ladybugs. So I was a little disappointed with the sales on my insect plant charms just because I had made so many of them, but they did still dollar for dollar sell more than the notebook section or the Christmas section. So that brings us to my last section, which was the jewelry section. And I had these bracelets from last year. They're the memory wire bracelets and they're made with the aluminum can rolled beads. So because there's so many beads on there, they are a little costly to make, and I had them priced at $35. I did actually sell 1 of these last year, but I didn't sell any this year at that price point, and I probably won't make them again because they just are a little bit too time consuming. But I will definitely take them to the next show just to see if anybody has interest. I also made a few of these recycled glass bottle bracelets, and I thought they were pretty. They're a little rudimentary as far as the bead shapes go, but I had them priced at $30, and I didn't sell any of those either. And the last thing that I did not sell any of are these single strand aluminum can beaded bracelets. Now, the interesting thing about that is that last year I sold a whole bunch of these, and I was only selling them for $7, but I think that maybe part of the problem was that I didn't have the same color assortment because I don't have any blues left or purples or greens, and so I'm not entirely sure what happened there, but it's interesting that I didn't sell any of my bracelets, and also that I didn't sell any of these when I sold quite a few last year. This was actually another surprise from the show, because sometimes you expect to sell things and you don't, and sometimes you don't expect to sell things and you do. And I've made these watch part pendants. This particular one is made for you to put your own picture in, but some of the other ones I made were just kind of dioramas of different little trinkety things that I had to put inside of the watch casing here. And I'd had these necklaces I took them to both of the previous shows, and I think maybe I might have sold one at each of the previous shows. So I didn't make any new ones. I just had 5 this time around, but I sold all 4 of them at this show. So this is the only one I have left. And I sold them for $25. So I have a lot of watch casings left, and I'm kind of excited and motivated to make a few more for the next show. These are not a jewelry item, and I didn't take them to last year's show, but I did take them to the first show, and I had a bunch of different sizes. They're made with thumbtacks and cardboard and the tin can, and I didn't feel great about the quality of them, but the interesting thing was that last year a lot of people asked if I had a mirror when they were looking at some of my jewelry projects. So I thought, you know what, I do have mirrors. And so I took all of the small ones that I had, and I sold 2 of them for $15 a piece. So I tried to make my jewelry pricing as clear and kind of simple and concise as possible, but a couple of the items I did price separately. And this little daisy drop earring style that I made from the recycled bottle glass, I did charge $25 for, and I only sold 1 of them, but they just have a little extra labor in them, so I did want to price them separately. I also made a bunch of these hairpins from the aluminum cans, so I had like 8 different colors, and I wasn't sure how they were going to go over. I priced them at $10 a piece, but if you bought 3, you got a free one. And they didn't get much attention. People, I don't know. I sold 1 of them for $10, and I have a whole lot left. So I may have to rethink the pricing for that next time. And that brings us to all of the rest of my earrings. So I'm going to go through them sort of quickly. I had 2 different price points for them. I had a $15 price point and a $20 price point. And they were also buy 3, get 1 free. So these are a simple pair of the fused glass earrings that I was selling for $15. I think I sold a couple of those. I had some big paper rolled bead earrings that I sold a few of for $15. These are some examples of the aluminum can earrings that I have, just a lot of different styles that I made. This is sort of representative of some of them. I also have several different styles of earrings that are made from the tin cans or the soup and vegetable cans, and these I took to the last couple of shows I've been to, and they're just fun because you can kind of shape them in some different shapes. You can also do engraving on them if you have a stamp engraver. This is another rolled shape that I made. This pair is made without rusting the cans first. So if you have, some of the cans have the gold inside and some of them have silver, so you can kind of do silver and gold combination. This is that similar style, but just in a different size. And a small version of the little rolled dangle drops. And then this year I added some faux engraving to some of my tin can styles. So that's a little butterfly. Got one with a dragonfly, what are those? Seahorses. I was actually surprised. I thought the little earrings of this style would sell better. And I had a couple of really big pairs of earrings that I didn't think would sell, but they did. So I was actually surprised. People wanted the bigger earrings more than the little ones. But this has a bumblebee on it. This is just sort of a floral pattern. And just another floral pattern combo. So all of these were priced at $15, and like I said, if you bought 3 you got 1 free. And so I sold 29 pairs of $15 earrings. And then I also had a couple of things of jewelry that I sold at $20. So some of my fused glass, it's really hard to get the right light on these, but some of my fused glass earrings were $20. And I also made some fused glass pendants, which are also kind of hard to see, but they're really pretty when the light shines through them. And then I have my watch face earrings, which have been a really good seller at the shows. I'm down to just 4 pairs, but I'm not 100% sure if I'll make more of them or not. But people do seem to like them, and they're kind of fun and whimsical because you pair up mismatched watch faces to make them. And these were the $20 pieces, and again, they were also buy 3 get 1 free. And I sold 12 of them. So this is just a quick look at my sales recap because I'm trying to kind of learn something every time I go to these shows. And so I've never looked at it in this way before, but I decided this year to total my sales per department. And the interesting thing about that is the space that they took up. So my little notebook area, I sold $328, and that was pretty good because it was just in a 2x2 section of my booth, so it only took up a quarter of one side of my booth. The Christmas section sold just about the same amount, but it actually took up 3/4 of one side of the booth. My insects, like I said, sold more than both of those two departments, but again, they were in just one little front section or a quarter of one side of the booth. And the jewelry always does really well, but I've never really totaled it before, so it definitely outsells everything else. So I will definitely have to take that into consideration for my next show. And it does take up a bigger section of the booth again, but it's seems to be worth the square footage that it's taking up. So just looking at these numbers quickly, I would definitely reconsider my Christmas section for next year. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions or comments, be sure to leave them below. If you're interested, you can probably find most of the tutorials on my YouTube channel. If you're having trouble finding one, drop me a comment and I will send you the direct link. You can also check the links in the description for a place to sign up to receive the UPCYCLE Design Lab newsletter so you never miss one of my videos. And if you haven't already, click that subscribe button to become part of my YouTube community.